Yo, what is up guys? Ethan here back in another video, and today we have the American team rankings from worst to best. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. Now before I hop into this video, there is definitely going to be some rankings that you are definitely going to disagree with, as in my opinion, this is the hardest rankings I have done. Maybe because it's a non-Power 5 conference, but I personally think I watch the American games more than the most average fan, unless you're like a fan of UCF, Cincinnati, SMU, Memphis, but unless you're a fan, I actually think I watch more American games than the average college football fan, and still, it was really tough. So, I just wanted to get that out of the way. Next video will be the introduction of my college football series on NCAA 14. But yeah, without any more interruptions, let's get straight into the American team rankings. And the top three is probably going to be the most debatable thing in this entire thing. And I think this is the first time in any of my team rankings the number one team was not number one in offense or defense. As my number one is UCF, and I think they have the second best offense and the second best defense. Now, UCF, disappointing year last year. They didn't even win the American. They weren't even in the American Championship. But team-wise, I think they're going to be really good this year. Of course, the scheduling is all changed and all. But looking at that conference play, I personally think it's a tad easier than last year. And then also you have to throw in that at Georgia Tech game, which personally I think you could actually destroy Georgia Tech even on the road. This offense is really good, and it's led by Dillon Gabriel, sophomore quarterback. And even though they really don't have that clear-cut running back besides Otis Anderson, that running back core, even though it's not one of the best, it's very deep, I would say. You can probably have your third running back can probably start at like UL Monroe and all those little schools. But for American team, you probably have the best running back core there is. Your wide receiver core did take a big hit as Gabriel Davis did declare for the NFL draft, but still your wide receiver core is actually up there. But I personally think even though they have the same rankings, I think your defense is better this year, led by strong safety Richie Grant as he returns for his senior year. And he's probably a first-round pick in this upcoming draft, which could be crazy to some, but I would not be surprised. And just looking at this team, I personally think UCF is the most balanced team in the American, and that makes them the best. Now, number 2 and 3 is going to be, they're going to be so debatable. I personally think Memphis is number 2 as they have the number 1 offense and the number 3 defense. And Cincinnati is number 3 with the third offense and the best defense. Now, Cincinnati does have the better coaching. But I do think that Memphis's number 1 offense outweighs Cincinnati's defense. And that's why I had to put Memphis up there. Also, Memphis did beat Cincinnati twice last year. So, ultimately, I did decide to go Memphis number 2. But if you said Cincinnati number 2 or even number 1, any of these teams number 1, I would not be mad at you. But looking at this Memphis team, I love this team. You have Brady White, senior quarterback, former 4-star quarterback. He returns for his senior year. He's expected to light up the charts. And if you watch my favorite players video, and the guy on your thumbnail, Kenny Gainwell, now that Rashard Bateman is out this year, is by far my favorite player in this college football for this upcoming year. Unless he opts out. Then I'll be really disappointed since my top 3 players opted out. But I do think Kenneth Gainwell only played 1 season at Memphis, and he just put up ridiculous numbers. And he is the number 1 running back, and probably for this upcoming year, he's probably going to be maybe the 4th or 5th wide receiver. That's, my bad. That's how talented Gainwell is as a receiver. Probably the best receiving back in all of college football, maybe even besides Travis Etienne, but Gainwell is electric, and I'm a big fan of him. And also with superstar wide receiver DeMonte Coxey, one of the fastest players in college football. Well, I'm not going to say college football, but definitely one of the fastest players in the American. All those key players, that's why they're number one in offense. Your defense, it's a little iffy. And even though it's third, your defense is, I'm not going to say it's it's average for the American, but it's not great, I would say. You really didn't lose that. Actually, yeah, you actually did lose a lot of key players, as it looks like you're only returning 3 to 4 starters on that defense. And with Ryan Silverfield, as I think he's more of an offensive-minded coach, they have the number 3 defense. And now the team that is number 3, Cincinnati, as they have the third offense and the number 1 defense. And at first, I actually gave Cincinnati the number 2 offense, but I decided to give it to UCF due to the depth at that running back position. This offense is 100% led by Desmond Ridder. He returns for his junior year to the quarterback at Cincinnati. And Cincinnati was the only school that had 4-star recruits, as they had 3 this year. Alabama transfer Jerome Ford decided to transfer to Cincinnati, so he got way more touches. He's probably going to be the starter this year, but Jared Dokes, he's probably going to get a few snaps. I like that running back core at Cincinnati, but the reason why that offense is number 3, you really don't have a big-time playmaker at wide receiver, maybe besides Alec Pierce, a very similar player to Jaden Blue, also a player in the American for Temple. He gets up the yards, but he's not really a threat in the end zone, and he really doesn't get the points on the board for you, but he's a good wide receiver. And I personally think by far Cincinnati has the best defense, led by Derek Forrest, strong safety, as he returns for his senior season. And last year he did lead the team in tackles with 106, which is ridiculous for a safety. And also, you have a really good free safety in James Wiggins as he returns. And also, I'm not sure if he's going to be the backup safety or slot corner, but Javon Hicks, backup free safety, did lead the team in interceptions last year with 5. This secondary at Cincinnati is going to be crazy and definitely is going to be keeping up with some top-tier wide receivers. Now, your linebackers are a little iffy, and your defensive line's good. I'm a big fan of the Cincinnati defense, but I had to rank Memphis and UCF above them due to their lack of wide receiver. But, like I said in the beginning, very close for these top 3 teams. And at number 4, I have the SMU Mustangs. And Sonny Dykes finally came out last year. He's entering his 3rd year. A few disappointing years back-to-back, but last year was his first big year at SMU, mainly led by Shane Boucher, senior quarterback for this team. Now, I think he's actually a tad overrated because he did lose his starting spot to a freshman in Sam Ehlinger, but that's just my opinion. But still, he is a great quarterback, and I really like the fit he has with this SMU offense, and that's why they're number 4. And also, you probably have one of the top 3 wide receivers in the American, and Reggie Roberson Jr., as he's returning for his senior year. He was a starter last year, and he was phenomenal last year. Well, he did suffer a foot injury in late October last year. I think he's going to come back better than ever for this SMU offense. And that is why SMU started 8-0 last year. Well, even though I was a huge fan of James Prochet and he's gone now, I do think SMU is going to do as good. I'm not sure if they're going to be as good as last year, but SMU is definitely going to be pulling off a big upset this year. Maybe if it's home versus Cincinnati, or I don't even know, but the defense, not the best. Oh, one other thing. Kylan Granson, the tight end. He is going to be a tight end to watch out for. Probably the most underrated tight end of all of college football. I almost forgot about him. But this SMU offense is definitely going to be carrying their team, and that's why they're number 4. Now at number 5 I have Houston, and they had a very, 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 very disappointing year last year. And it's mainly because their superstar quarterback, De'Ara King, basically quit the team after 4 weeks. And I do think Dana Holgerson, I think I said his name wrong. He's entering his second year at Houston. Even though Houston doesn't have the superstar power that they did last year, I think Houston's definitely going to be well improved and definitely is going to make a bowl game this year. By far, their best player is going to be Marquez Stevenson, senior wide receiver. And like Reggie Roberson, he's probably going to be a top 3 wide receiver in the American this year. So yeah, that's probably your top 3 wide receiver core. DeMonte Coxey of Memphis, Marquez Stevenson of Houston, and Reggie Roberson of SMU. Maybe even Jaden Blue at Temple, but yeah. But that offense is similar to SMU. I think Houston team, based on the talent they have on the team, very similar. Offense is way better than defense. And yeah, as you can see by both of the rankings, I just had the same rankings SMU had, but for Houston, I just bumped them down one. And that's not a coincidence. And I personally think Houston's coach is better than Temple's. So even though it's a 5-8 here for Houston and a 7-5 for Temple, this is one of those cases where I think the coaching is more important, and that's why I ranked Houston at number 5. Now we look at this Temple team, and I have them at number 6, the 7th offense and the 5th defense. Now, that offense is definitely, no, my bad, the defense is going to take a big hit this year. A lot of their starters left. If it was by the transfer, like Quincy Roche, as he transferred to Miami or declared for the draft, this defense definitely took a big hit. But Temple's defense, even though maybe the stats didn't show, I think Temple had a top 4 defense last year. And even though we're not going to have the same amount of starters, I really like this defense still for Temple this year. And that's why I put them at number 5. But that offense is definitely going to have some few struggles. Even though I think Anthony Russo, senior quarterback, is going to have a better year than he did last year for Temple. And you have a phenomenal wide receiver in Jaden Blue, as he was the top 5 most under the radar players. If you didn't watch that video, go check it out. But even though I do like Temple's offense, I don't think it's going to be as good as last year's, so I decided to put them at number 7. And the 7th team I have in the American this year will be the Navy Midshipmen, as they have the 8th offense and the 6th defense. And personally, this offense could be a little bit lower. And it's mainly because one single guy's name, Malcolm Perry. Navy led the nation in rushing yards last year, and that's mainly because of Malcolm Perry, their quarterback. But he is now no longer theirs. So this offense is basically in a crisis mode. And that offense, it could have even been lower, but due to the lack of offense after that 8 spot, I just had to give it to 8. But that defense is definitely going to be the key point for this Navy team. You have Diego Fegut, linebacker, as he had 100 tackles last year, 5.5 sacks. And also Kevin Brennan, your strong safety, as he had 2 interceptions. And this Navy team, they are going to be taking a hit this year. They've lost, I'm not going to say the majority, but a lot of their starters from last year. That Navy team was fantastic last year. But if anybody can bounce back from losing a lot of players, it's definitely Navy. They've did it in the past. If they do it this year, I would not be surprised. But team ranking-wise, I had to go at number 7. Number 8, I have Tulane, as they have the 10th offense and the 4th defense. And if it wasn't for this defense, Tulane could definitely be lower. They had their superstar wide receiver, Darnell Mooney, one of the fastest players in the American last year. And he was just amazing for that Tulane team. If you watched him, he was legit. I'm pretty sure he was drafted by the Bears this year, so they are without their top player. But even though this Tulane team, besides Larry Brooks, their strong safety, having 4 interceptions, a similar thing to what I said about the defenses earlier. This defense is super balanced, and besides Larry Brooks, they really don't have a key star at all on this Tulane team. But it's a very well-rounded defense, and this defense is going to be lethal. And if Tulane makes a bowl game, it's probably going to be on their defense. But Tulane's offense, it's not going to be really good. I think they're going to be the second worst in all of the American this year. We'll get to that team later. That's the worst. But I'm not a big fan of this Tulane offense at all, especially with the loss of Darnell Mooney. And yeah, so that is it for Tulane. As we're going to go to Tulsa, as they have the 6th offense and 11th defense. Now, I am taking a risk here for this Tulsa team. And potentially, I could see this being 7 and giving Temple number 6. But I personally believe, I really don't watch Tulsa that much. I'll be 100% honest. But on what the people have been telling me, their offense is legit for this upcoming season. And mainly led by Zach Smith, their senior quarterback this year. And Shamari Brooks, their returning senior running back. And I know, well, they don't have a clear-cut number 1 wide receiver, but I've heard that their depth is just insane at that position. So I'm taking what people's are recommending me on praising this offense. And so I decided to give it the number 6, even though I don't know that much about the team, even after looking up some statistics. But I personally think this defense is going to be dead last in the American this year. And it's going to be the complete opposite of Tulane, as if Tulsa does make a bowl game, it's not going to be for their defense. It's going to be because of their offense. And I think Tulsa is going to be the clear-cut team that really doesn't have a key star breakout player. So that's just my opinion, though. But I decided to go with Tulsa at number 9. And number 10, I decided to go with East Carolina, as they are number 9 offense and number 10 defense. And I really don't know that much about East Carolina either, I'll be 100% honest. But Holton Ackler's their junior quarterback. He may be a top 3 quarterback in the American this year. But besides him, it's not really good for that East Carolina team. Now, I'm not high on that defense either. But I do know that looking at what the stats showed last year in the returning starters, their defense is going to be at least better than Tulsa's. And the last team I have is not UCF, they're number 1, USF. The Rivals are the number top team and the least or the worst team in the American, as USF has a worst offense and the 9th defense. And looking at this team, if it wasn't for KJ Sales, the senior cornerback for this South Florida team, they would have been number 10 defense in my opinion. If they didn't have a key player in Sales, they would have easily had 10. But since Sales is there for his senior year, I decided to give him the edge and give him number 9. But for this USF team, that offense, it's really they haven't been able to get a good quality offense since Quentin Flowers left, and that was like 3 years ago. Jeff Scott comes in for his first year. I do think he's going to do a few things. You basically have a whole new staff, as you also have a new offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, but I think it's going to take a few years for USF to officially make a bowl game. And yeah, I think they're going to be dead last for team rankings-wise in the American this year. So that is it for my American team rankings. Now, the last one I know I'm officially going to do is the Mountain West. I will only do the Sun Belt, MAC, and the Conference USA only if you guys want me to, as the Mountain West could potentially be my last team rankings. But in the comment section below, do you have any disagreements with this list? Which team do you think is going to be the worst? Then yeah. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, share, subscribe, and like always, have a good day. Peace out.